And we are live, Katie. Hello and welcome to Rebel Finance School. We are super excited to see you all here tonight. Welcome, because tonight is not just any night. It's the night you graduate from Rebel Finance School 2025. You've survived 10 weeks of spreadsheets, withdrawal rates, and pineapple metaphors. And now it's time to celebrate you.
You've shown up week after week, even when it felt impossible. You faced fears, tackled debt, and stared down retirement calculators that said 96, and you didn't give up.
Jack didn't give up. He came to Rebel Finance School 5 years ago. The calculator said he couldn't retire until 96 years old, he told us last week.
If you've ever felt like Jack, like retirement was impossible, type me in the chat, because you are not alone. I'm sure a lot of people feel like that, and I can see the me's flying in on the chat there. Yes, this is like a common thing to feel, isn't it?
And maybe like Jack, you felt lost, overwhelmed, like you'll never be in control of your money. But you kept going, you kept showing up, and that's what matters. And here you are, having completed the course and gone the distance.
And Jack went the distance. He kept coming back every single year. He kept learning. He kept tweaking what he was doing. He kept believing. And now, 5 years later, his retirement age is 64. He's gone from never being able to retire, well, unless he lives to be on 96, which he looks quite healthy.
There is a percentage chance he will live beyond 96, but we don't know. He does drink a lot.
But he's gone from never being able to retire to retiring before state pension age, so early retirement. That's amazing progress. And that is the rebel spirit of never giving up.
Because it's like a baby learning to walk. They fall over, they get up, and they try again and again. But it's our job to not, like when that baby falls over, you don't want to say, that baby's not a walker, bring out the chair. That baby's never going to walk.
You mean like
put them in a chair, they'll be fine. They'll never walk. No, we don't do that. We keep going. We cheer the baby on. We help it up. We hold their hands and we get there together. Debbie says, oh, yes, that's me. I'm a crawler. Debbie, you'll learn to run financially soon.
And after the graduation ceremony, we have a special treat for you. The man who retired at 30 and turned frugality into a superpower, and he's inspired millions of people to live life on their own terms. Yes, we have Mr Money Mustache here with us tonight.
We are super excited. Yes, Pete is in the house. I can see him on the camera. We're going to bring him on in a minute. So have your questions ready, Rebels. He's coming on after the graduation ceremony. So this is your chance to learn from one of the legends of financial independence.
But before we do that, let's take a moment
to look back.
All the way back to week 1. It feels like a long time ago, doesn't it? We looked at where does all the money go? You started tracking your spending. Some of you realized your coffee budget could fund a small nation.
Week 2, net worth. You learned that your car isn't an asset just because it's shiny. Sorry, Derek, even a Porsche is not an asset.
Then week 3, we looked at your money beliefs. You rewrote the stories you have in your head about money, like I'm bad with money, and you opened up to possibility with the magic word yet. I'm not good with money yet.
Week 4, debt and compounding. You discovered that compounding is either your best friend or your worst enemy, depending on which side of that you are on.
Then in week 5, we talked about money, how to talk about money with the people you care about. And you had those awkward conversations with your partners, your parents, your pets, and you survived.
Week 6 to 8, investing. You rode the roller coaster, you learned about platforms, accounts, funds, investing, and you realized you don't need to be a professional investor or have a wealth manager to get started. You can do it yourself. And one simple index fund can create magic.
And during those weeks, you met one of the stars of the course, Tallulah. You experienced the roller coaster yourselves with Tallulah in volatility training. And then it was on to week 9, retirement. You worked out your freedom rate. You used the retirement calculator. Some of you typed
WTF
in the chat. Some of you decided it was impossible and gave up. But some of you just got to work and started to improve your situation, just like Jack's been doing for the past 5 years.
And then week 10, making your money last. You learned about sequence of returns risk, how to protect your future. You're not just rebels, you're financial wizards now. And tonight is the night for the graduation ceremony.
So the time has come for the ceremony. Ready yourselves, because this is you getting inducted into
The class of
the
2025.
Sacred Order of the Rebel Pineapple. Alan, what is this pineapple thing all about? Please tell us.
So it's the Sacred Order of the Rebel Pineapple, and people are always like, Alan, what the heck is this pineapple stuff? What's the obsession with the pineapples? Why do you even talk about pineapples? Well, let me tell you, the very first time we ran Rebel Finance School, we were trying to share a key message, which is don't compare yourself to other people. Because we had so many people in the group, and we still get them. I'm sure you've seen the messages in the Facebook group recently, people going, everyone here seems to have lots of money. I never will. Is this group for me? And we keep saying, don't compare yourself to other people. You have to run your own race. So you just set out on your own race and you do your own thing and you make progress from where you are. And that was the key bit.
Because it's a natural part of being human, I think, isn't it? We all compare ourselves to other people, and you really have to resist that. And actually, when you see someone that's doing perhaps better than you in some areas of your life, thinking, fascinating. Perhaps I can learn something from this person and what they've done and their attitude towards things, or how did they get to that point, and learn from them, rather than comparing pineapples with them.
Exactly. Angela says, to compare is to despair. And Julia says, remember, pineapples grow from the ground up. You just have to start small from where you are and make progress. So let's get into the actual graduation ceremony. And this, you might take a bit of shuffling. Michelle, you might have to move the dog from your lap. But just for this bit, please be upstanding for the ceremony of Rebel Finance.
Yes, come on, Tallulah, I can see you.
Yeah, David and
Gabby's
moved.
Come on, David. Well, David's listening to me.
Yeah,
So
James, I can see you. I love that. Wes and Kim.
you might need to adjust your camera. We're getting a lot of groin shots right now. So
Steve and Michelle, yes, that was you. But we love you.
please put your hand on your pineapple, or where the spirit of your pineapple resides. Live studio audience, why are you not standing up?
This is the sacred oath of the Rebel Pineapple. I, repeat after us, I, and then say your name, not mine. I, Alan Donegan, do solemnly swear
to mind my gap and work to increase it.
When making decisions, I do the maths.
And consider the emotions, because
I love it. We can hear them saying it behind us. It's not binary.
I challenge outdated beliefs and mindsets.
And I create new beneficial ones.
I demolish debt and the causes of it.
I ride the investing roller coaster.
Knowing that it's part of the journey.
When unsure, I seek wisdom from the collective wisdom of the members of the Sacred Order.
You sure this isn't a cult?
No one will notice.
When I feel unable, I invoke the magic word yet.
I start where I am and I take one step at a time.
And most importantly, I start living my extraordinary life today.
We hereby name you the Rebel Finance School class of 2025. Give yourselves a huge round of applause. Congratulations, everyone. Time to take a drink of your adult beverage.
How are you feeling out there, Rebels? Are you on cloud nine? You've completed the course. This is amazing. Wes and Kim are cheersing their pineapple juice glasses together.
I love it. So many cheers. If you're on YouTube, I hope you're celebrating at home as well. Spoonsy's given us a huge round of applause. Anita
You
the newbie is
watching
here.
on catch up, I hope that you followed along and said the oath out loud. It's so powerful to repeat the words and to commit what you're going to do for the rest of your life until you expire.
Which you may have a long time until your expiration, and we are hoping for a long period of financial happiness before then. Now, when we were writing our music album, we actually worked on a song for Rebel Finance School.
Yeah, and the song was actually inspired by the oath that we get you to say at the end of the course, the commitment that you're going to make. So if and when you feel like you need a little Rebel Finance School
top up,
thank you, then please listen to this graduation song. I'm going to put the link in the chat. The link is in the description on YouTube for you to enjoy and to remember your Rebel Finance School training.
Exactly. Katie wrote the words, and then we hired real musicians with our friend Finn in the picture and produced our own music.
Do you have your graduation certificate? If not, please fill in the survey. Short survey takes 10 to 15 minutes, and then your certificate will arrive. The fairies and unicorns create your certificate in the background, and it will be winging its way to your inbox. Please check your spam for that.
Exactly, especially because I cleared out my Google Drive, so there is now space to send you all of the certificates. And we are so excited to be sharing that with you. And all of these surveys actually help us to improve the course. So all of the surveys help us to improve the course, to make things better every single time. So we really appreciate you. Right, we're going to move on because we have someone absolutely incredible here tonight. And this is the moment, or one of them, that Katie met Mr. Money Mustache.
Oh my God, I had such a fangirl moment. I did not play it cool. I was like, I'd been reading Mr. Money Mustache, Pete's stuff, for a long time, and he had really influenced the way that I had thought about money, because that was one of my big stumbling blocks to getting on board with changing how we wanted to live, with going for financial independence. So then actually getting to meet Pete and shake his hand, I was like, oh my goodness, it's an amazing moment.
We had so much fun hanging out with Pete, running events with Pete, chatting about finances. We absolutely had a blast doing the Mustachian salute at the Mustache headquarters. So please help me in welcoming the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Money Mustache. Give him a huge round of applause, please, everyone. Here he is.
See me?
Now? Not yet. Oh, now
We
I
can
am.
hear you.
Cool. Well, thank you. Thanks for having me here. Wow, look at all these hands. I didn't know Zoom had so much fun, like animation stuff nowadays.
It's very cool.
It's actually really interactive, and it's lovely to see everyone here, and you're getting a huge round of applause on YouTube as well, which is really nice to see.
Sam says, I've heard that Pete's a cult as well.
Is Mustachianism a cult, Pete?
Yes, it has been since the beginning, but it's supposed to be a friendly one.
What is Mustachianism?
Well, it's just a lifestyle, right, of making choices for yourself, probably pretty similar to what rebels do, making choices that aren't just based on what you pick up from everybody else or what people tell you you're supposed to do, and more like based on your own values and maybe some human values and things that actually work to make you have a better life. And then hopefully some of them cost less too, so that you can, have your early retirement as well.
So what do you think actually leads to a better life, Pete? What actually, some of the secrets that you've learned, the secrets, I use that word kind of liberally, but what are the things you think actually leads to having a happy, fulfilled life?
I think it's, if you understand seek to understand yourself as a creature, like a human being. We're just a really fancy animal. So we have certain things that date back from before society that we like and what makes for a good life. And then society has layered all these other things on top, some of them which are useful, like having shelter, and some of them which aren't so useful, like going into debt for a Rolex, or, sitting in like passive entertainment all day and and destroying your body from inactivity, that kind of stuff. So if you can learn to sort that out, then it turns out that some of the things that are the most happiness producing, like going for a walk in the morning as the first thing you do, that just don't happen to cost anything, then it's a real win-win. And that's kind of what I started my writing about, like I think it was like 2013 or 2011, 14 years ago. And then we've just done so many lessons ever since. And it always boils down to like, let's just pick these simple things. And by the time you fill up your life with simple good things, and you really don't have as much time to spend all your money like everybody else is doing. So it's kind of, my goal is that it's a win-win rather than a deprivation.
Because that's often what people tell us is this stuff of frugality, saving your money to invest is deprivation. And it's something that we didn't ever feel. Did you ever feel deprived by not spending your money fast on stuff?
Oh, no, definitely not. In fact, I didn't even know I was being frugal because I grew up in a lower income country and household, which is Canada in the 1980s. So when I moved to the US as a young man, I thought everything was just incredibly fancy and I was buying everything I want. It just ended up being less than what my American colleagues were doing because they were used to their childhood, which was, more wealthy than mine. So I just thought I was doing everything that I could possibly imagine. And then the rest of the money was just left over. But then when we compared our lifestyles, then we noticed there were substantial differences, and they were spending maybe 3 or 4 times as much as we were as like new Canadian immigrants. And it just kind of went from there. And then I started to analyze it later, like what is the difference and which of these ones are worth keeping? Some of my frugal habits were maybe not worth keeping. And then so now I kind of just practice the ones that are good for me, whether they save money or not.
So when you found out that the other families had a huge lifestyle, like, did you not want to inflate your lifestyle to match? Was there no like keeping up with the Joneses or envy? Was that something you didn't experience?
Well, no, because they were spending money on stuff that I thought was just completely a waste. Like, for example, I got a new job. So the first thing I did is pick a place to live that is close to the job because I don't like spending all my time commuting. So that's a win-win, right? Like I can bike to work. It only takes a few minutes. Whereas my coworkers would get a place that's like 20 miles away and spend an hour or more in the car every day. And that also costs them like $100,000 every decade. And so I feel like, I spent less money, but also did something better. And it's just a matter of thinking about these choices one at a time. And then, when I did get a car, I would get something that worked for me, like, had a nice Honda Civic and then gradually moved through different cars through the years. Whereas my friends would have like a 6-wheeled diesel pickup truck for no reason and just drive this stupid thing like 20 miles out of the country. And of course, they're spending like, many, many times more money, but not getting any benefit out of it. They just did that because they saw a pickup truck commercial one time on TV or something. So that's the thing. Like, you don't have to deprive yourself. You just have to make choices that are slightly less ridiculous. And I know I say that phrase all the time, but slightly less ridiculous is a pretty big improvement already, at least here in the US. UK people probably have a more sensible starting baseline. So you can't quite chop off things as easily as Americans, but it can be done everywhere, I hope.
Yeah, I think everywhere has a level of ridiculousness, and some countries have a higher level of ridiculousness than others, but everywhere has a level, and we can all look at the different levels we're at. Did you spot a question, Katie?
I had a question myself.
Oh, Katie's got a question.
So, Pete, you managed to retire when you were 30, which is very impressive. And we have a lot of people that come on Rebel Finance School that are discovering personal finance and investing when they're in their 50s, 60s, 70s. Like, is it too late for them? Like, should they just give up? Or is there a chance for them to improve their lives in some way?
Yeah, the bad news is if you're 50, then it is too late to retire at 30. But the good news is you don't, the benefits, if you practice frugality in the way that I'm hoping to advocate, is the benefits begin immediately. So as soon as you start learning the stuff and flipping the switch, then you start getting a better life and getting more money for yourself. at the same time. Like, for example, if you put my morning walk into practice, then you're going to have better days and you might spend less money because you might have been spending money on something else in place of doing that walk. And one habit at a time, you gradually displace what you were doing before with things that are better for you and more enjoyable. And you're making the choices consciously about what costs, what can you afford. You might get rid of a vehicle, you might move to a place that's closer to work, or find all these other many hacks that are out here in the fire community now. And what happens is if you had any sort of shortage of money before, that goes away, and then suddenly you have a surplus. And even if you're 50 or 60, 70, 80, having a surplus is better than being really close to the edge. So you're just living with less financial stress. It might not build up to the point where you can quit your job, but being less stressed is always valuable, right? And depending how far you go and your income and situation and your age and spending, you still might reach a much earlier retirement. In fact, pretty much the definition of having any kind of surplus means that you can retire at least a little bit earlier than you otherwise would.
I love that. So we had a question from Spoonsby, said, how did you manage to retire at 30, asking for a friend?
Well, not spending all my money throughout the 20s and investing the difference. And in that case, the numbers work out. This is with my fiance at the time, but we were spending in about a third of our take-home pay and saving the other 2/3. And that's how the numbers work out, that if you start in your early 20s, then you'll be financially independent by the time you reach 30. And that's you've probably heard the term, the shockingly simple math behind early retirement. That was the name that I gave this article that puts a little table of like, how much do you save and how early do you retire if you save that much? That's the real answer, right? It's really just numbers. Like, your savings rate is what dictates how many years until your retirement happens.
I love that. So for everyone listening, savings rate, Kate and I reframed slightly for the course. We called it the freedom rate because we found that people were saving for spending, Pete. So they would save up and think they were doing well because they were saving to buy a holiday or saving to buy a car. So we said saving is great, but you must invest it. So that's kind of the same number. In our words, we called it the freedom rate, how much of your money you're putting towards buying your freedom.
Yeah, I like that even better. And actually, I saw a comment from Steph just now in our audience, and she said, yeah, but you have to earn a lot in order to save a lot. And that's the interesting part. Of course, it certainly helps because everything gets easier when you make a lot, because food is always going to cost a certain amount. And if your income is way bigger, then that covers your necessities more easily. But the reason the shockingly simple math behind early retirement is so shocking is that it doesn't really matter how much you earn. Like, if you can save a certain percentage of your income, whether that's $10,000 or pounds or $1 million, you get the same retirement date. 10% of savings, you'll have to work something like 40 years. 20%, it goes down and down until, like, if you could save 100% of your income, you can retire, pretty much immediately. And that's because part of the savings or the freedom rate built into that is how low your spending is. And some people just naturally have lower spending because of all the different things that they have in their life. And you can't really go to zero unless you're extremely charming and everybody gives you everything for free. But you can certainly go a lot lower than the average in your peer group. And then that's what really lets you save more even on the same income as your peers.
Well, you've had a lot of love and swooning in the chat, Pete, so I think your charm perhaps could get you everything for free.
I got a really good free climbing lesson this week from a friend, and I like to think it was because of being a nice guy.
It certainly helps, yeah.
It certainly helps. It makes a huge difference. So if you looked back at your past years, Pete, we had a couple of questions like, on your way to sorting out your finances, is there anything you would change? And if there was a mistake that you made in the past, what would you change?
Well, I mean, my biggest mistake, I even wrote an article about this. It was called Mr. Money Mustache's biggest mistake, but it was very specific to me. It was that I started a business that was very stressful and lost me a bunch of money, like right after retiring. So, and right at the same time of having a new baby, who is now my 19-and-a-half-year-old son. So don't do that. Like, it's good not to go into your retirement with like a whole bunch of stress and loss and make choices like that. That's one thing. And then another mistake I made is it took me a while to let go of my scarcity mentality. And this happens to a lot of people in the fire world, is if you grow up in a family where frugality is everything and your dad is making making you reconstitute powdered milk because regular milk is too expensive, which is true. My sisters are a bit older than me. And they always tell this story about our dad. And then, he got more relaxed as he got older. And then I feel like I get more relaxed as I get older. And if I had my same opinions and attitudes now, way back in my 20s, I still would have reached financial independence like almost as quickly, but I just would have worried a lot less. So I think worrying is the biggest thing you can teach yourself earlier, because if you don't fix that, then no matter how wealthy you get, you're still going to be worried, and you're still going to get this terrible thing called one more year syndrome, where, now I've been coaching people occasionally, and you'll find people who have like tens of millions of dollars, or at least like quite a few millions of dollars, and they won't let themselves quit their jobs because they think they need to just put one more million onto the pile before it will be enough. And when I look at the numbers and their spending, it's absolutely wrong. Like, they don't need that extra $1 million, but they're naturally worry-prone people, which is really like a big waste of your life. Like, worrying is no fun, usually makes you make bad decisions. So that's the biggest thing, is to just chill out and feel like an abundance as soon as possible in your life. And that's going to make the whole journey a lot more fun.
Yes, it is.
How did you change that then, Pete? So how did you go or stop being a worrier?
It's just one step at a time. Like, it helps to see examples of your friends. Sometimes bad examples help too. Like, if you see a friend who's more of a worrier than you, then you're like, wait a minute, I know that's ridiculous, so maybe I'm also ridiculous. And especially if you see other friends that are more abundant and you see that they're having fun and you want to be a bit more like them. So peer pressure, self-applied, can be helpful. And for me, as I'm part robot, so I just like to think about stuff logically and kind of train myself, with numbers. So when I look at my retirement savings, even now, and I apply the 4% rule to myself, then I see like, okay, you really can spend like several $100s a day. And I'm totally not doing that. So I should really think of it as like every day another few $100s comes into a pile on my kitchen counter. And the only thing I can do with this is spend it. Like, it's not literally true, but it's games that I play with my mind. And so that way, if you're doing something and then it's unexpectedly expensive, like let's say you need to get a hotel and it's way more than you expected, you were like, well, guess what? I'm just using some of that $300 that was sitting on my kitchen countertop anyway, and there's going to be another 300 tomorrow. So like, just relax. So that kind of stuff, little mental games where I give myself numbers and pretend mandatory spending things, that kind of helps me.
Where does the magical $300 come from?
That's like, I just made that number up because it sounded big, but if you had a budget of 100 and something $1,000 per year, then divide that by 365 days, and that might be like $300 a day. So that's the
Yes.
basic, if you take your savings and multiply it by 4%, you're going to end up with some kind of 4% rule, like rough budget and what you're allowed to spend, and kind of have a lifetime supply.
Yeah, we did the same thing when we retired. Our budget was 40 grand a year, which was £109 a day. That was our budget. And then we kind of knew what we had to spend. So you went out for breakfast and you're like, oh, that was quite a lot. So then you like have coffee in or you do something else. And it kept us quite safe thinking about those numbers.
Yes. I had a question from Kate. So we have a few youngsters on the call and a lot of parents. So they're saying, what Mr. Money Mustache wisdom would you give to a 10-year-old or any young person, I guess?
Yeah, I love when kids that young are thinking about this stuff. I don't think there's anything that's too specific to kids other than just learning to understand money a little sooner. Like many kids are sheltered from the idea of money, and their parents are like, don't worry, we'll pay for that. Only once you're 18 years old and you're moving out are you going to learn anything about money and financial independence. And for a younger kid, it might help to start understanding. If you're interested in money, then read some money books and ask your parents about how much does it cost to run our family? What's our family budget? If the parents are open to sharing that kind of stuff and the kids find it interesting, then why not? I don't really see a harm in that as long as it's done in an open and, emotionally supportive way rather than saying like, sometimes there's a lot of feelings attached to money. So you don't want to give kids a big money hang up by talking, like making it seem scary or stressful.
Yes. Speaking of emotion attached to money, we had a question from Colin who says, how can you speak to overspending friends who are totally blinkered to changing their financial outlook?
You don't have to. Like, it's not your job. And that's one of the reasons I started the blog is because my Mr. Money Mustache blog is because I realized people don't want to hear from me in person. Like that's too intense. People feel judged. So it's a lot better to just put your opinions out there one way or the other. You can live by example. And if your friends are curious, they'll choose to ask you, hey, how come you don't have to work, for example? Or, for me, I put stuff on the internet and people could just go find it if they wanted to. And then those people who are offended by it can just not read it. So that's one of the real keys about frugality and mustachianism and fire stuff is you can't push it onto your friends. They won't like it. And you also can't push it onto your spouse or your family. You can't be like, honey, your shower has been 6 minutes and we have a 5-minute shower budget because like that's not going to get you any further. Nobody appreciates that. It's not going to even save any money. So like that kind of stuff is just, it's more like just do it for yourself, live by example. And if you're lucky, if you're still choosing a partner and you find somebody who also feels the same way, that can be a nice bond, right? Because you're going to go further together and be like aligned with this kind of stuff. But even if you just do it yourself and everybody else in your world is terrible with money, you can still see a lot of benefits, I think.
Definitely. I also appreciate the frustration that some people have because you see people you love and you want to save them and help them with their finances. And yeah, we have learnt you can't save them.
You can't, much as we want to.
We try to. So a question from Debs, Pete. What are your top 5 tips for women pushing 60 to boost their gap for more more investment potential? Like
You might need to explain the gap.
The gap. So we have a concept on Rebel Finance School of the gap between your income and your spending. And it's about getting as big as gap as possible, which is the savings rate. And then putting it into investments. So, what would your advice to people, top ways to increase your gap?
Well, I don't feel like I'm especially qualified in that demographic. I'm just a man pushing 51. But I would think it's pretty much the same stuff, right? Like we all spend money on primary categories like housing, food, transportation. And so for anybody, it's more like just look at your spending and be willing to add it up, which is very rare. Like if you add up your spending for the last 3 months, you're already sort of in the 1% most organized people, because most people just spend and their money runs out and then they're in debt and then they work on paying back the debt. So look where your spending's going and see if there's anything that's large and adjustable and goes with along with your values that you could make improvements with. And, I always focus on spending. I know that income can have a bigger effect than spending. So absolutely, if you're still working, compare your salary to that of your peers. And if you're a woman, you might be underpaid relative to the men in your industry. Like there's still a lot of discrimination. So ask the men in your position what they make and use that as a guide for when you're negotiating for salaries and new jobs. But other than that, I don't think the age or the gender or other life situations are not the biggest factor. It's more like looking at your spending and making adjustments.
And I absolutely loved what you said when just tracking your spending, it puts you in the top 1% of organized people. And we have
Yeah.
definitely discovered that it's unbelievable. People just don't know what they're spending. So just doing that one thing, knowing where your money going, know what your gap is and what you're investing, it puts you so far ahead than most people.
Yes, because most people,
Yeah.
when you say how much do they spend, I don't know if you've experienced this, Pete, but they kind of just add up a few numbers in their head of a few fixed costs like rent or mortgage and utilities and maybe how much they think they spend on their car. And then they're normally wildly off. Have you had that experience as well? Or how do you think people
Yeah,
think about their spending?
absolutely. I mean, I live in a fire bubble, so most of my friends are pretty good with this stuff. But when I do experience or meet people who are outside of it, it does get kind of interesting. Yeah. Like there are people, like driving is a good example. You know, I always harp on cars and commuting, but everybody thinks that the cost of gasoline is the cost of driving their car. Like, oh, it's only $20 to go to the mountains and back. But you should at least be multiplying that by five to account for the full cost, right? And if people did, they'd think, oh, that's actually $100 to do this, drive up into the mountains and do this hike. And sometimes it's worth it. You can afford that. Other times you're like, huh, I don't really want to spend $100. Maybe I'll go to the hiking trail that's in town or that's closer, and you make little choices like that. That's already putting you in a high percentage of knowledge that most people don't have. And then, and another funny example, this isn't quite money related, but I read in one of my favorite books called The Comfort Crisis, that if you're in the airport and then you see like a staircase, a couple staircases and an escalator right next to it, only about 2% of people choose to take those stairs, even though, I don't know, probably like over 90% can take the stairs and almost 100% would benefit from doing that, even if you're carrying luggage. Like, how hard is it to carry like a suitcase in each hand and walk up some stairs? But only like, so if you just do that, that's already you're in the top 2%. And isn't that easy? And that's why it's remarkably easy to like really put yourself at the top of the curve in all different areas of life because the bar is just so low. Like our society has just trained us to be this very, gentle, mild people who don't really try at anything. And thus it's easy to be rise above that. And if you've ever seen the Pixar movie Wall-E, it's really a great example of pretty much what we've become. We're just like floating along on these beds, watching TV and sipping these big gulps.
Yes, and slowly getting fatter and fatter and fatter, which definitely needs
Yeah,
counteracting and like working on our health and looking after ourselves.
right.
So we had a question come in from Michelle, Pete, and Michelle says, "What are your thoughts on the balance, health versus saving everything to get to financial independence?" We're looking up here because we've got a big screen with all the questions in case it looks weird.
Oh, nice.
I am passionate about travel and spend quite a bit traveling the world while I'm still youngish. Memories I cherish. Having seen a few people close to me pass away early, I'd rather travel now and delay financial independence. Like, how do I know the balance of whether I delay it and spend?
Yeah, I think, and somebody mentioned the Die with Zero book, and that's kind of a similar to that question. And it is absolutely tells you it's worth delaying financial independence for things that are worthwhile for you because you're never going to be younger than you are today. And there's certain experiences that work best when you're young, like seeing your parents. Our parents get older and die at some point in our lives. So you can't just wait till you're 80 to spend lots of time with your parents because it's very, very unlikely they'll be around. So, so yeah, just do it and keep be aware of be aware of your choices and what it's what it means, and then a lot of times that's worth it. I mean, I still traveled what I felt was plenty as part of these 20s and still arrived at the 30 early retirement because travel doesn't have to be that expensive, right? You don't have to be doing a $2,000 a day, ultra safari trip with the best accommodations. There's ways to travel cheaply and longer. If you travel longer and less frequently, then you get these bigger, more immersive experiences like the Donegans do. And then you're not buying plane tickets for every single trip because it's just a longer trip. And there's still a lot of tricks, but in general, I always try to push people to like not be cheap on things that are important to you. Just only cheap out on the things that are a waste anyway, like the unnecessary commute, the food stuff that you're throwing away, buying coffee at Starbucks when you have a coffee machine right in your kitchen countertop. These things like that are good enough already to make such a big difference that you don't have to be cheap in the important areas.
And I think it's just thinking creatively about it's very easy to spend money for like the convenience of someone organizing a trip for you versus doing it yourself. And then of course our friend Laura Paul is amazing at this. She's like spends very little and travels extensively. She does house sitting, various other stuff that she's done. Like we did a whole workshop with her on living large on a small budget. I'll put the link in the chat. But there's so many different ways if you just are willing to think creatively and put the effort in.
So, Pete, tell us about the concept of a Hasselhoff. Were you talking about David? Does it have small shorts? Because Hasselhoff, the concept, really affected our lives.
Oh, interesting. I might have to reread that old article. It was like originally just a way of making a joke with David Hasselhoff's name. But the real thing is, I noticed people, even early in my writing as Mr. Money Mustache, would spend a lot of money to avoid what they considered a hassle. You know, like, oh, I don't want to push a lawnmower around for 30 minutes, so I'm going to hire somebody to do it for $25, you know, because all my neighbors do that. Nobody cuts their own lawn. And then what I was pointing out is like, well, that's not really much of a hassle because it's right at your own house. It's easy to own a lawnmower. And meanwhile, you do something that's the ultimate hassle, which is giving up almost 100% of your free time every weekday and like driving to across the city or to another city in order to work for somebody else. And you're locked up in a cubicle and, you know, like that's a giant, giant hassle. So if you're willing to do that, why would you not be willing to do much smaller things like learn to trim your own trees and carry your suitcase up the stairs and all these other things that are good for you? And in exchange, you get to retire years or decades earlier, which is, you know, saving you from this other hassle that's much bigger. So my idea in that article was just mostly learn to specialize in things that other people think are a hassle, which they pay a lot to avoid, so that you can, you know, you can broaden your skills and keep that money that other people are spending, and also just have more interesting home life. Because if you delegate away all the hassle, like the lawn care and other things that are related to taking care of your house or your wherever you live, then all you have left to do is just watch TV, which is not, you know, that's not really much of an achievement. You should just stay busy instead. And then the goal is that you get to the end of the day and you don't even have time to watch TV because you've been so busy doing interesting, creative, or productive, or at least hard things all day. And that's kind of one of my, you know, one of the secrets is, and why I don't have TV service, I don't have like any of these streaming things, is just because I don't really have time to do that. Because bedtime rolls up and I'm like, oh, I guess I better stop working.
Yeah, we love the concept of Hasselhoff really affected us. We had a couple of small investment properties and we are Hasselhoffs. So we did the paperwork ourselves. When the toilet broke, I would like the investment property was 4 doors down. So I'd literally come out of a door. I wouldn't even bother putting shoes on. I'd like go to their place, fix their toilet or shower, and then come back. And I'd feel so proud and marginally manly that I'd fixed a shower and done something that helped make us wealthy.
Yeah.
Love the concept of
Yeah.
Hasselhoff.
So you're talking about, you know, you're working so hard up until bedtime. A few people have asked in the chat, like, how are you spending your time, and what do you mean by you're working? What are you actually doing?
Work. No one wants to work.
Yeah, it's a mixture. Like I try to minimize the computer stuff. Like I'm doing right now. I'm on a computer with you guys, but most of the time I just do manual labor because that's what I enjoy, working on my house or friends' houses, and then just leisure stuff like bike rides or mountain trips with friends. We had a ridiculous day recently of I got to climb this mountain at the edge of Boulder with a climbing friend that I mentioned, and I'd never done it before. I'd never done this like outdoor rock climbing where you're roped in and you're just climbing a sheer cliff that's hundreds of feet high. And it was just so scary and intense. And it was on Tuesday morning. And I thought, I'm so lucky to be doing this. And it wouldn't even occur to me to do this if I had still had my job. So all this, what I really like to do is variety, like just trying new things and not letting the day become too routine, which is why it's hard to define what I really do with my life, because it's kind of different stuff.
Yes.
I love that. Fireman in the chat says, I do gardening for my next door neighbour, an OAP, old age pensioner, because the gardener guy charges them £70 for an hour's work. I don't charge not even a can of pop, and it's nice being nice, which we actually love. That community spirit of helping out the neighbours is fantastic.
That's awesome.
That's great. It's very rewarding and a great way to meet people. And it also can broaden into a job as well, because you can help the people who benefit from getting it free. But then if you have wealthy or younger neighbors, like I used to build kitchens and bathrooms for a lot of my neighbors as one of my retirement, part-time jobs. And I would still charge, like I would get paid for it. This is during the time when I felt a little bit of a money pinch because I'd lost so much money with my construction company. And that was like a really enjoyable job. And it all just started from me learning all this stuff from working on my own houses. So that's another great thing is like the more skills you develop and the more people you meet, you end up with really strange overlapping benefits that make your life more interesting and more prosperous. And pretty soon everybody's sharing things, like someone might have a vacation home that they let you use for free in exchange for you sharing your skills with them in town or whatever. Like a lot of weird stuff happens when you open yourself up to it.
That's really cool. That kind of neatly brings us on to Nia's question, who says, I've got a question about retirement life, saying I should be able to retire earlier than most of my friends or people I spend time with. I can't seem to get them on the same train as me retiring early. Like, what suggestions or advice do you have for how to manage the transition and still enjoy it if everyone else will probably still be working? Like all your friends are at work. How do you have that social life outside of work?
Well, there are lots of people who are out there to hang out with in the regular days as well. I mean, it depends on your friends, but a lot of my friends are still employed, but it's like a sparse schedule. Like sometimes someone will have a Tuesday off, a different person will have a Wednesday off. A lot of people work from home and they can slack off a little bit and just take a couple hours for a bike ride or something, because it's the wonderful work from home era now. So I've never found that to be much of a problem. And then, of course, if you have kids, they keep you so busy as well. So you'll be really glad to not have a job in that situation. Even if the kids are in school, then during the day, you're probably busy like getting the groceries and taking care of the house and doing the cooking and things like that. So I've never really had a shortage of stuff to do, even when people are, especially if you have hobbies and chores for yourself. Like it's always a mixture of leisure and productivity, and you'll never know where you even got the time for the job in the first place once you quit that job.
We had the chat lit up when you said you had a 19-year-old, because I think the whole group was like, wait, what? I thought he said he retired at 30. How old is he? How does this happen? Then when someone said like, oh, wow, Zoom filters are good nowadays. But Pete genuinely looks this young. He's a very attractive gentleman, and he's looked after. I do have a man crush on Pete. He's incredible. But yeah, Pete, like, you retired at 30. How old are you now?
I'm going to turn 51 in a couple months. And thanks for having a man crush. Obviously, I have a crush on the Donegans, I have a whole line of Donegan glasses that I used to have pose with you.
Photo of you.
Oh, you know what's a funny, this is a funny side story. I apologize if it's too far off topic, but okay, so this friend that took me climbing, he posted it on Instagram the next day. He's like, hey, I met my friend at Mr. Money Mustache for some climbing. And then one of the responses was, I've never seen a picture of Mr. Money Mustache, but I'm very disappointed now that I see him. I'm like, oh, what's wrong? And I was wondering, and that kind of like, it's just a stranger on the internet. I shouldn't take it personally, but I'm like, what's wrong with me? Why is he disappointed? And I was wondering if it's just because I don't have a mustache or if he wanted something else different from me, if he wanted me to be like really burly, or like, I don't know what, but I wasn't going to respond to that guy because one of the rules of the internet is you don't engage with internet trolls. You just brush it off and move on. So I'm going to take your compliment to help erase that guy's insult from the other day.
Oh, you're getting a lot. Alan's not the only one with a man crush.
Yeah.
You're getting a lot of love in the chat too.
Exactly. People are saying it's all jealousy. Anita the noob says, no way he's 51. You're getting a lot of love in the chat, Pete. So I think that can definitely be erased by the thousands of people sending you positivity now.
That's great. So that's another reason, though, that I always tell people that retirement is a good idea, early retirement, because if you erase most of the bad stress in your life and you free up time to do all the healthy things that we know are good for us, then guess what? Your aging is probably not going to be quite as fast because you're not like grinding down your body as much or your mind. So
What
that's
do
what I like to think everybody should benefit from is less stress.
what do you do to look after yourself? Because I know that health is very important to you. What do you do daily or weekly to make sure that you do slow down that aging process?
Well, I'm not like a, passionate spa anti-ager or anything, but I just do healthy eating, like salads every day and clean food, like don't eat sugar or dessert type stuff. Minimize alcohol nowadays, I try to do like less than maximum of about 2 drinks a week. And then the main thing is just exercise, right? Like outdoor exercise every day, spend hours outside and do weight training, which is the best exercise. Everybody doesn't have, you don't just have to be a dude. Everybody should lift weights regularly, like heavy weights that make you make embarrassing faces because it's so heavy. If you're not making embarrassing faces, then you're not taking care of your health. That's kind of a good rule of thumb.
I love that.
I love that rule.
There is the rule for everyone. If you're not making embarrassing faces at least once a week, you're not looking after your health. So please put it in the chat if you are promising to make an embarrassing face this week.
Yeah, but I mean, once a week is a good starting point, but I think it should be every day. Like you should be doing something heavy with your body every day where you think, oh, I can't lift this, but I will. And that's why it brings us back to the airport situation, right? Like a lot of people are saying, oh, it would be hard to carry this suitcase up the stairs. But guess what? You probably can. If you had to do it to save your life, then you would try. So just try, and guess what? It's not that hard. So like that kind of stuff, like applied every single day is really the key to taking care of your body because your body's a machine that needs to work if you don't want it to degrade.
Mm-hmm. Steph says, I'm a 60-year-old woman and I do powerlifting. Good on you,
love that.
Steph.
Good work, Steph. That's fantastic.
Yeah, exactly.
So we have a whole bunch of people. There's like the experienced people in the group who've learned lots about personal finance, and there's a whole bunch of people that are just finding out about this. They've not really heard of financial independence. They're like, who is this mustache guy? And like, what are we talking about with the mad scientist and all these strange names that they have in this FI world? What would you say to people who are kind of new to the world of personal finance?
Well, if you enjoy it, if you think it looks promising, then just go read some books or blogs or YouTubes. I mean, what you've been through with the Donegans these past 10 weeks is already everything that we all say too, because the Donegans have basically just taken all the best stuff and packaged it very nicely and improved it. But some people like to learn it multiple ways, and then the repetition helps really cement these concepts in your mind. So everyone's got their own way of learning. For my own part, I have a boot camp email series, is what I call it. And you can sign up. I'm not sure if you mentioned this to people before, but you can sign up on my website and it just sends you an email once a week for about 52 weeks. I think I stretched it a little bit longer, so it might be 54 now. And it's just a bunch of lessons. They're old blog posts, so I tried to improve them when I reworked this in 2022. Some of them are still a little bit dated, but in general, I try to keep it mostly relevant. And over the course of a year, you should hopefully pick up a lot of stuff like techniques and mindset ideas and philosophy and investment knowledge that would make you better at money and lifestyle and early retirement.
Definitely. Richard B in the chat says, already signed up. It is brilliant. And if you go to the QR code we had or the link that Katie's put in the chat, and you can add in your email address, click down and it says, send me the classics, which actually Pete's blog and his words and his concepts had such a positive impact on our life that we love telling everyone, like, read this. It is super. David Evans says, or you can just read his whole blog like I did last year. Best articles ever. So those are the kind of two options. Get the 52 sent to your email, or just start from the beginning and read every blog, which I think you called on your blog, like starting at the beginning. What was it called?
The complete list of all posts since the beginning of time.
Yeah. Exactly. That is it.
When I first discovered your blog, Pete, I was like, "Oh, this is really interesting," and I just devoured it. And I tell people, like, I spent all my spare time with you, Pete. I didn't know you at this point. But
this is a funny story. I didn't know, Katie. So did you? Are you the one who pulled Alan into mustachianism after reading this?
Well, with my revisionist history, yes. But that's not actually what happened. But because we discovered about financial independence and thought, like, oh, this sounds like a really cool thing to do. And like I do with a lot of things in our relationship, I like pretend to be into something that we're going to do together, and then kind of quietly sabotage and not actually be on board and thinking it's a good thing to do. So a friend sent us your blog when we mentioned financial independence, and I was like, okay, I'll check this thing out. And I started reading and couldn't stop. And then basically spending time with you, I was indoctrinated into mustachianism and the idea that why would you not do this cool thing, financial independence? And then because I was the one that kind of needed to learn more and read more and immerse myself in it, I, in my head, was then like, oh, I'm the one that's like into this stuff, and I'm the one reading the blogs, and I've got to like make sure Alan is in on this as well. So I twisted the facts a little bit in my head.
Okay, all right. So that's good. At least Alan didn't get forced into it. Although I do like when it's the woman, because stereotypically, mustachianism, it's like a nerdy tech worker guy like myself, because the audience often follows the writer. And then he'll be like pushing it on his wife, like, honey, we're not going to use the air conditioning anymore. And by the way, you're biking to work and stuff. And they're like, what? And like, I even wrote a blog article series based on, an unhappy wife had started messaging me like, please stop making this blog because you're destroying my life because my husband is making me do all this stuff I don't want to do. And it was very educational for me. And it just definitely reminds you that you shouldn't take it too far when you're pushing it on your spouse. But it's a little bit more okay if the woman pushes it on the man, because it's like karma for all the times it's happened in the opposite direction.
We definitely found out this year, a few people have said, like, why do you leave the how to talk to your partner about finances until week 5? Could you not tell us not to talk about it with our partner until after week 5?
We did realise we do need a hold your horses moment for the talking to your partner, because we get people really excited about this stuff of like figuring out what life they're building towards and tracking their spending and looking at their net worth and all this stuff. And then people get excited and go and talk to their partners, be like, the Donegans said that we have to do this and that, and doesn't go
down very well. Did anyone else here experience that? Did your partner drag you here? Some people are nodding very quickly, going, yes, that's exactly what happened to me. I was dragged and had this forced on me. But most people over time seem to have come round. We haven't scared anyone off. Sharon asks, do you still cut your own hair, Pete? I know the answer to this one.
Yeah, of course. And I just got a chance to teach some young boys that learned that I cut my own hair to cut their own, and now they're cutting each other's hair, and it's super funny. So it's good to start at some point. I think that's a good for people who don't really have like fancy hair that needs much work. That's a good starter mustachianism thing, right? Because you do this job, it takes you 10 minutes and it saves you an hour or two from out of your day of like making an appointment and going somewhere and waiting and then getting home from this appointment. So like that's really an ultimate thing. ultimate win, and you do it with a tool that's like $15 or $20 and that lasts for decades. So even if it weren't for the money, like even if I got paid to go to a barber, I would still cut it at home because it's just so much of a time saver, and I hate making appointments. I like to have my days with just my own stuff in them.
I'm very intrigued by the young boys cutting each other's hair. That's a great opportunity for some practical jokes and meanness of maybe that's just where my head goes with trying to.
Yeah, but it's also educational because no matter what you do, your hair is going to start growing back the moment, like it's always growing. So if I was
Very,
bald today, tomorrow I'd have some peach fuzz, and then after probably about a month, my hair would look like this again. So
yeah, it's not permanent.
What's the financials of cutting your own hair, Pete? Like, does it actually make a difference? These small acts, these, like, we're talking about relatively small things. Does it actually make a difference?
it makes, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a pretty small percentage unless you think of the value of your time, in which case it's maybe fairly big. And it depends how often you like your haircut, right? Like I like mine cut every 2 weeks because I get really annoyed. My hair is super fluffy, so I keep it short. So if I had to go every 2 weeks or every even a month, that's like a huge cost. Like how much is my time worth? Like, I don't know, like at least $100 an hour. So I'd be spending $100 a month plus 20 to 50 for that haircut, which does, that's a moderate amount of money that builds up over the years. And if you're a parent who has kids and you cut your kids' hair too, then that's even more of a compounding. But like I said earlier in this talk, it's the win-win situation that really matters. So I prefer not to spend time going to the barber and have to think about it. And it saves me a few dollars every time I do it. So and then I take a shower afterwards because that's what you need to do after you take a shit, after you cut your hair. So it's like everything getting done at once.
Yeah, it's what you said about families all cutting their own hair. Elizabeth says, I've been cutting my hair, which is long lady hair, my husband's, and my two sons, one long and one short. So that's four of them.
That's four of them.
Yeah. I think that's awesome.
We had a question, changing tack slightly. We had a question from Pete and Hannah. Pete says, have you ever felt scared by the volatility of the market? And does it get easier the longer you're in it?
Yes, it gets easier. I don't think I've ever felt too scared by the volatility because I read the books at the very beginning of my investing life when I was like 19 years old. And I learned and believed it. The stock market always goes up, as Jim Collins says, J.L. Collins. It just doesn't go up in a straight line. It's in a zigzaggy pattern. So if it drops, the only reason that would be scary is if you're sure it's never going to go up again. And obviously that's not the case. Look at the history, and if you understand what a stock is, I think that really helps. Understanding that an index fund, especially as a share of the entire company or the entire country or even in the entire world's economy, depending which index fund you have, which means it's a share of all of humanity's spirit and innovation. And are humans going to just stop doing stuff? Well, I hope not, but I'm willing to bet that they are going to keep doing stuff. So because of that, when the stock market goes down, it's just a sale on stocks. If you have more money, throw it in. If you don't, then say, well, oh well, it'll go back up anyway. And I still have to teach that lesson to people nowadays. Like I was talking to a guy recently who sold all of his shares in April as they were going down because of the US, Donald Trump clown show with these tariffs. And then they went right back up to record highs. So he locked in that loss. And that's what you do when you panic. It's just like you should be afraid of your own behavior rather than the market volatility.
Yeah, it's our own behavior that causes the problems. And if we can just stick it out over time. If you're listening to this and you have not done volatility training, we 100%, we designed a new thing this year, Pete. We designed an app that people could put their investments in. They had a range of investments they could choose. There was a virtual market, and it's an hour plus session where you could actually invest in the stock market, see it go up and down, be panicked by the media. We had different media coming on saying the market's going up or the market's doing this. Yes, we can see Tallulah in the chat right now. Tallulah was very famous. But yeah,
That's
we
super
never
impressive. How did you
actually.
make this app?
Martin, the fabulous ninja, created this app. There is Tallulah. Tallulah was one of the stars of the show. I love that she's been spotlighted. Tallulah, thanks for jumping in. But Martin, the Rebel Ninja, designed the app and used AI to code it into the website. So people would log onto the website at the beginning of every year's cycle. They would choose, like, I'm investing in cash. Index funds, actively managed funds, bonds, gold, and there was a bunch of different investments they could choose. So if the market looked choppy, you could dive out to gold, as it were, because that's a secure investment, and then see what their results were after 7 years of investing.
Nice.
It was a lot of
I would
fun.
like to try that
We
too.
had the Rebel Ninjas, our team of volunteers, helped design the whole thing and then played the parts of the media, including the famous Tallulah, who has become a bit of an icon in Rebel Finance School folklore.
Exactly. Yeah. And someone in the chat went, I bet Pete is thinking, what the heck has just happened here? It's not a cult, Pete. It's okay.
That's good. If you have a cult, I'm all for it. That's really fun. It's a sign that it's your movement is a success, I think.
Changing tax quickly, Corinne from New Zealand says, how did you design your social life so that you enjoy friendships and socializing without spending heaps of cash? Has that changed through the ages and stage of lives? Because we've always found that there's sometimes pressure to go to a restaurant with friends. Like, how did you design that, Pete?
I wrote an article about this long ago, and I think it's called something like "Protecting Your Money Mustache from Spendy Friends." And what it boils down to is if you're in that situation, one thing that helps is that you become the leader. So you suggest the activities like, hey, let's go for a bike ride today, everybody, or let's go to a park or come to my house for a dinner party or whatever it is. You can design things that are a bit more healthy and less expensive than just sitting and having people bring you food. And like, there's not, restaurants are fun, especially for higher income people. Like, it's a fun getaway, and you shouldn't rule it out. And it's not really going to break your budget unless you're doing it every week, multiple times. But at the same time, it's not the most fun thing to do once you realize other things to do. So, and also if you join social clubs that are built upon doing things other than just eating, like the website meetup.com is really good. And we have our own meetup group around here where a lot of these fun things happen. And they're usually not based around like super expensive things. And there's all kinds of clubs worldwide on Meetup, as well as like Choose FI groups is another example. And I don't know how international they are, but it's if you take an active role in choosing the activities and choosing your friends, then it kind of just takes care of itself.
Yeah, that's kind of what we did, didn't we? We would just lead and be like, everyone come to our place and play board games or
And we'll cook, and it's still cheaper, and it was fun because we enjoyed cooking, we enjoyed looking after our friends, and it was still cheaper than going out, even if we cooked for everyone.
Yeah, and especially if you have the good kind of friends who realize, oh, let's invite the Donegans over because they invited us over. So it's rotating. So you're not just always doing the one feeding everybody and buying the wine and everything. Then it just becomes on average an equal sharing situation, which is great. And it's also good for if you're the wealthier person in your friend group, then you can do stuff that's a bit more generous and let them benefit. And that's kind of fun. Like that happens a lot in our fire community. And I don't know, it's never really been that much of an issue. I think it's just most people are very passive in everything they do, and the more active and little leadership role you play in your own life, you'll be surprised at the benefits that happen in all aspects.
yes.
100%.
Yeah, Sujata says, I do bring your own dish gatherings at my house, help save a heap. I think you call them potlucks in the US, don't you? That kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good example. Like we have a potluck every Tuesday at my headquarters co-working space. And it's a great way for everybody to just catch up with each other once a week. There's always new guests each week, so you get to meet new people. And some people are more passionate about food than others. So those people usually are a bit more generous in the potluck making. I really suck at coming up with recipes and I'm shy about sharing them with people. So I go and contribute usually in other ways, like I'll bring something pre-made or bring the wine, or I'll just provide the building and clean up after everybody. And, it all works out. It's not, nobody's like keeping tabs on how many calories and macronutrients each person brought to the potluck. So it's fun.
Uh, we had a question from Sarah. Are you okay for time for a couple more questions, Pete? If you need
Oh
to
yeah,
ditch at any point,
I'm
say.
retired. I'm just sitting around. In fact, this is good. I'm taking shelter from a very hot day in Colorado here, so it's kind of good to be inside at this time of day.
I love that.
I need to turn the lights on. It's going to get dark here.
Sarah said, what
Yeah.
got you first interested in this subject and where did this all start for you?
In the subject of, I guess we're thinking of like early retirement. I got just gradually interested in it by virtue of noticing that I liked the weekends more than I liked my job. So I thought, oh, how can I get more weekends? And then I was naturally frugal, so I was already like saving money and investing it. And then eventually those two ideas just kind of merged in my mind, like save enough money, then it's a permanent weekend. So then that's what led to the early retirement.
And then eventually you go, oh, I much prefer weekdays because not everyone's out and about and it's peaceful.
Yeah, right. Weekdays
Which
are
is
the
the
best
other way.
weekends. And it was also very child raising driven for me. And because I always wanted to be a dad as like I wanted to really do a good job at it. And I didn't, and I saw my coworkers who were older, who were typically like there was a lot of men working in my company, and they were like missing stuff with their family because they had to work and they were always juggling and taking family calls, which made them less good at their jobs and vice versa. And I was like, I don't want to make that compromise. I just want to be like strictly a dad by the time our child comes along. So being able to quit the job before that was also a huge motivation to get it done before 30 or
I love
before 31, actually, like while I was still 30.
Leanne says, does MMM have a book? Does MMM have a podcast? I'm far more interested in reading than listening. Like
Listening than reading.
Listening than reading. Like, where can people get more of you, Pete?
Well, right now I'm on the Donegans Rebel Finance School, so this is one example. I don't have a podcast because I don't really like committing to regular online work because I feel like I do too much of that already. So I just go on the podcast of friends sometimes, like Doug, who runs Mile High Fi. He's a good friend, and I've been on his show a few times. And I go on interviews a few times, but it's just going to be me saying the same stuff I said today. So you really don't need to watch me more than once, It's like everything is just the most valuable lessons are in the boot camp email series. And then from there, you can read specialized stuff, like read The Simple Path to Wealth to understand investing, read Die with Zero if you're too cheap, read books on every other subject as needed. And the main challenge most people have is putting it into action rather than learning more. Like, let's watch more MMM so we can get wiser. Like, there's really not a lot to learn. Just do. There's such thing as like an information addict or like a coaching addict. What some people will like hire many coaches to give them the same advice over and over and then just not act on it. And I think that's the main thing. Like, FIRE is mainly just go live your life.
I love that. Someone wrote in the chat, don't watch on repeat, which I thought was brilliant. Just go and take action. And that is definitely
Pete, like Pete is Pete's name.
Repeat.
Oh, very clever.
Was very clever. So just go and take action and actually do it. Katie, did you spot another question?
No.
Okay.
Have you got one?
Yes.
Nice.
I do. Pete, Prabble says, before leaving your day job, did you share your FIRE plan with your colleagues? What was their reaction? Did their behavior change? Anything like that? And yeah, what was your regular job?
I did share it with them. And so I was an engineer, like a software engineer, working at a company that still exists, Cisco Systems, big American networking equipment company. And the thing that's neat is my colleagues were all kind of the same type of person. So they were interested in these ideas like numbers and optimization. So I would speak pretty openly about early retirement and saving. You know, I was on this for at least the last 3 or 4 years. I was like, yeah, we're getting closer, getting closer. So they knew I was going to quit as soon as I had enough money to quit. And some of them were in the same situation. Most of them had higher desire for spending or saving than me, so I was able to quit a little earlier. But I actually was inspired by some of the people who were ahead of me, you know, people with rental houses that in theory paid for their whole family lifestyle. So the engineering job was already just icing on the cake. And so yeah, it was good. And I told them, and then for those of the group who didn't know my plans, they were a little surprised because they thought like, what do you mean retired? How could you have enough money? Like I would be out of money within a couple weeks if I quit this job. And that kind of stuff is what led me to start writing about it many years later, is that I thought I was doing a normal thing. I thought like the amount of money we made just for being like mid-level engineers was more than anybody could spend. So therefore, we must all be saving the majority of our income. And I was really surprised when I learned that no, most people spend it all. And even people who make 2 or 5 or 10 times as much as us, they spend it all too. So that inspired me to write about this, because it's like, holy, it's just so, there's so much ridiculousness out there.
Yes, which we come back to, just reduce your level of ridiculousness. And it is amazing how that creates difference and energy and progress. Absolutely incredible.
We had a question from Kirsty's 7-year-old. So we talked about kind of getting there and on the way there, and did you talk about that stuff? Then what were the first things you did when you reached financial independence? Did you like throw a party? Did you run naked through the streets? These were not.
She didn't type. She just said the question
from the 7-year-old. I'm embellishing a little bit.
Well, I actually started a little bit early to try out the idea. So for the last year of my work, I asked my employer if I could take a 20% pay cut in exchange for 20% less work. So for the entire last year of my career, I worked just Monday through Thursday, and I had every Friday off. And then I would flex a little bit, like if I was needed on Friday, then I would take the Monday off or something like that. And that was so good that it proved to me that, oh yeah, this is a good idea. I want to expand this to like 100% of my time off in exchange for 100% pay cut. And yeah, that was one good way to test. And then as soon as I quit, then I felt it was almost like an amnesia for me. It was interesting how I'm like, whoa, did I even really have that job? Because the rest of my life immediately flooded in to give me lots of stuff to do. And I thought that, you know, I was kind of passionate about the software development when I did that job, but I really haven't done any of it since then. So obviously that time had passed, and I am much more passionate about other stuff that I'm interested in since then. So, so it was educational, because by freeing up that part of my brain that was doing the work in that field, it got me interested in so many other things. And I'm so grateful that I got to learn all these other things instead, because it just feels like I've had a much more interesting life. It's a lot more varied.
Yeah, it's incredible the number of people we've met who just say, I don't know how I had time for a job before.
Mm-hmm.
How did I even fit this in? Because there are just so much fun things to do.
There's so much cool stuff to do.
Yeah. I'm really interested in, it's so fun seeing all these questions popping up on the bottom, and we're only covering a small number of them. Are they getting saved somewhere?
We do have a Q&A function as well, where we've got the questions. Was there one that caught your eye that you wanted to answer, or you're just interested to see questions coming in?
Yeah, I did mention 1 or 2, but I think the main thing is like it'd be really fun to read them all later, and maybe even use them as inspiration to do more stuff, like write about some of them, or even maybe I'll even make another YouTube episode where I'm like continued Q&A from the Donegans. That would be a good excuse to revive my long dead YouTube channel. Actually, it is back because of the music video that we made. Did you mention this to the Rebels?
No, we need to tell everyone about this, because this was just the most fun thing ever.
Okay, so long time ago, my son and I started a YouTube channel, like when he was pretty young, like 13 years old or something like that. And we made a few episodes for a while because he was saying like, Dad, you should have a YouTube channel. It's really fun. And I'll do all the editing and music for it. So we did that as a joint project just for like a year or so. I think we made 11 episodes and it was really fun, but then he moved on, to other interests and I wasn't going to do all that editing myself. So we just kind of let it go dormant. But then Alan came and visited me, actually both Alan and Katie, but Alan was here a little bit earlier. This is in March of this year. And then we decided to just run outside with our cameras and film a video for this song called Mustachianism that's on the Revolutionaries album that they just got developed. And it's a really hilarious, like hair metal, heavy metal song. And so we made a script for it and then did all the shooting and then edited it together. And I just put it on I put my own edit on my YouTube channel and then it's been there ever since. It's gotten, like I feel like it got some good feedback. Didn't get as many views as I had hoped, but I still watch it plenty, maybe more than I should admit. And my mom's watch it plenty and other good friends. So so I highly recommend it if you want to know what mustachianism's all about.
Yeah, it was so much fun creating this video and filming it all. And we put an entire band on the top of the roof of your building and then filmed it with drones. We filmed you cycling with a drone, which my drone randomly attacked you, went out of control and like flew at you, which is, yeah, we just had so much fun. So like it's in the chat. Katie's put Pete's YouTube channel in the chat. And we also have a link to that song, which we're putting on the QR code on the screen right now. So you can scan the QR code. That will take you to the video of the Mustachianism song. And you can see exactly Pete cutting his hair, Pete with an angle grinder, creating an eagle out of metal, and many other iconic scenes that you will never see anywhere else. Is one of the most fun things we ever did. So have a watch of that later. It's just genius. And this is actually the benefit of being financially independent is you can just do weird and crazy stuff because it's fun.
You can just do random fun stuff on a Tuesday afternoon, can't you? It's really fun.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's kind of exciting because some people are watching this on YouTube in the future on your channel, so they can just click right over to the music video. And I highly recommend turning on the captions so you can hear the words to the song better. Yes. And because I put all this work into typing them out. And yeah, I think it's just a good summary of mustachianism.
I love it. Steve and Michelle have asked, Pete, is your son following in the mustachian ways or has he gone rogue and done something else?
I would say so. I mean, he's very independent. So he doesn't listen to all my ideas, but he is certainly very wise with money and he's very passionate about his own career, which is computer stuff, like making music and 3D animation and software that helps you with these two things. So in fact, I'm sitting in his desk right now in his room because he's not at my house this week. And yeah, I think he's never going to have money problems because he's very conscious about spending and he's not wasteful, but he's purposeful too. And he's surprisingly generous, which is, I think is cool. Like he'll use his limited money to buy things for his friends when they can't afford it because he has a bunch of friends who are also poor musicians. So that kind of stuff. Yeah, I think he has a good future. We'll see.
I love that. Pete, we actually had a meme competition today to celebrate the end of Rebel Finance School. We asked people in the Facebook group to create a meme that represented Rebel Finance School. And we wondered if you would mind just judging the memes. We've got 4 or 5 to show you, and then you can tell us which is your favorite. Then we'll ask you for a closing message at the end. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
I love the way you said, like, judging the memes, like Pete's going to be really judgy, like, I'm not sure I like the font that you use there. But I think you meant more kind of
choosing which one you love.
Choosing the winners of the competition.
Yeah. So
have we got like a third, second, first spot? Or are we just going to go like a first?
Pete can rate them however he would like. There are no rules here at Rebel Finance School. So this is the meme competition. This is the one I created, which is not to be judged because it's terrible. Don't compare your pineapples. This is the first one that came in from Derek on Facebook as the classic meme.
Mm-hmm. Are all of these, like, I recognize this dissatisfied partners picture, right? Like that's a classic one and people put their own text over it. That
Yeah,
previous
I
one,
think
was that a brand new one that you made, right? Just
yeah,
like
that
stock
one was
photos?
created with AI. So I used AI to create that one. A few people have
Oh,
created
okay.
ones. Few people have done them by doing like the meme creation websites. And this is
Yes.
a second one for Derek. You create a gap, then invest in index funds. It's not a cult at all. Would you like a pineapple?
Yeah, that's pretty good. I've seen at Camp Fi people with this type of pushy personality. I'm not going to name any names, but yeah, you got to be careful when you're in a cult not to talk people's ear off.
All from best intentions. This one is definitely a Rebel Finance School centric one. Uh, what happened to your accent? It's Tallulah, your roving reporter. Forget investing. Here's the real sexy stuff.
There's many Rebel Finance School jokes in there, isn't there? Because we refer to
Yeah.
the investing weeks as the sexy stuff and encourage people to, like, don't worry, the sexy stuff is coming. And then Tallulah was the star of the show on the volatility training, with all the props and everything.
It's a classic one.
All right. So where's the picture? I like the picture in this one. Is this like people from your
I think
group
it's an
or
AI generated image based on the course. And I did wonder, why is this
yeah.
guy quite so small and staring up at Tallulah? It concerned me.
Mate, I think Tallulah's on a soapbox.
I
I think
think it
she's
is.
raised up.
This is a classic one. The low fee global ETF, Rebel Finance grads, and your financial
Mhm.
advisor horrified that you're staring at low cost.
Very accurate. Very accurate.
Then Andrea created us a little image of Tallulah, a Lego t-shirt, and I think that's mini Katie holding a pineapple in the middle.
Like I'm Tallulah and your child there, I
It
think.
does look a bit weird. We'll move on.
I like
This
that
one,
one. That could be Alan from back when you had a beard.
yes, definitely.
I
This
like
one
that one so far.
is a very weird one. Katie says, "No, Alan, pineapple coloured leather is too much." Because there seems to have been a joke this year that I wear leather trousers consistently. It's not true, but it's
Oh,
become part of.
so
It's very
Yes.
strange. Pineapple Man says, "FI is cool." That one came in from Paul, which is just genius. This is one of my favourites. And
Colors.
final one from Anna. Go back to your IFA, independent financial advisor, or draw 25 cards. Which one do you choose? So there you go, Pete. Those are all, and we'd love your help just announcing a winner for this year's meme competition.
That's tricky. I don't know what criteria. I like originality, so the one I like best is Alan, the one that has bearded Alan and Katie in it, I think.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so is this the one you were talking about, Pete? It's coming up on screen now.
Yeah. Right. Like I know it's not exactly a meme, but it's more like a fun thing and you can always add text over this if you want to memeify it with additional jokes
yes.
as
I love.
well. But that picture just makes me happy, and I'm kind of a visual person.
So the award tonight goes to Andrea. Please give Andrea a huge round of applause. Hit the reaction button. Tell her she's
Well done,
fabulous.
Andrea.
It was incredible. Good job. And you can find those all in the Facebook group if you want to repurpose them and send them to your friends.
And I don't know Tallulah, but does that cartoon person resemble her at all?
um, she's got more stubble in real life.
Oh, okay.
Oh. This was the I don't know how much to explain this or not.
I think we just leave it there in the mysteries of the universe, and everyone will be happy with that. Pete, do you have any closing messages for the rebels? All these people who are out there, they found personal finance, they're excited about their future, or maybe concerned about their future that they found it too late. What would you say to the fabulous rebels out there?
Well, I would just say you've done a great job learning, and now focus on going out there and making changes as much as possible and making your days fun and interesting and different than they are now. And that's what this is really all about. It's not about continuing to read or even continuing to attend courses. If you're going to meet people, try to meet them in real life as much as possible and try to create real relationships and friendships and community, because that's really the whole purpose of having an early retirement anyways, is so you can have a more bountiful real life and less of an online computer life.
I absolutely love that. And we saw the picture in the Facebook group of the Rebel Finance School Surrey meetup today, where 20 people got together for teas and coffees to chat about their stuff. So find people in your local area, make friends with people who are on the same page with you, and hang out. And please give the most outrageously appreciative hand to Mr. Money Mustache. He's one of our favorite people in the world.
The live studio audience is going wild.
I'm gonna take a screenshot of that. So cool.
Getting a lot of love in the chat, Pete, both on Zoom and YouTube. And please put, if you're watching on catch up, put a comment about what you thought about what Pete said.
Exactly. And we cannot thank you enough, Pete, for coming along and hanging out with us. It's so inspirational to hear the stories and to have someone share how they did it, what they've learnt. And that's all we try and do, is take what we've learned and share it with new people. So we really appreciate
hopefully I'll get to meet some of you, at least the ones who are in North America, at a Camp Fi someday. No affiliation. I just like going to Camp Fi sometimes. And or here in Longmont if there's an event that we're both at. And yeah, hope everyone's having fun.
Yeah, we would absolutely love that. We'll hang out at an event in Longmont. We went to the first campfire in Spain. It was a great event
Awesome.
that Stephen put on. We absolutely loved it. So if you can get yourself to an event or to meet the real people somewhere around the world, or we'll just have to put one on in the UK at some stage and do something there as well. Yeah. So thank you, Pete. You are an absolute legend, and we hope to see you very soon. Thank you so much for your energy and effort.
All right. Well, thanks for inviting me. Happy Pineapple Day, everybody. Pardon the detachment top here. I had to fish this out of my compost bin because I'm about to eat this.
I love that you left that right to the end as the big reveal.
Yeah, I was just sitting here on my desk the whole time.
Awesome. Thank you, everyone. Please say thank you to Pete, and we've absolutely having you here. We hope that you have enjoyed tonight's celebration. Like, it is a complete celebration, and it's about celebrating how far you've come on this journey, what you've learned, and the progress you have made.
Yeah, tonight is all about that celebration of coming on this 10-week journey with us. And please put in the chat, what are you celebrating? What is the win that you've had from doing the course? It doesn't have to be big. Maybe it's just the fact that you came to the course. Maybe you came to one of the sessions. Maybe it's that you now understand what the stock market is. Maybe it's that you learned a new finance term, or that you tracked your spending for the first time. I'd really love to know. And actually, maybe it is a big thing. Maybe you realized actually you're done. You could retire tomorrow if you wanted to. And I'd love us to be a place at Rebel Finance School where you can say those big things that happen. Because I know in British culture, we're kind of taught not to share those big things. And we want this to be a place where we can all celebrate those wins, big, small, commiserate when bad things happen, but just all be together and just say what's going on. So yeah, tell us in the chat, what is it? What are you celebrating? Because this is an evening of celebration.
It is. Angela screamed, "I've completed the course." Someone else screamed, "I invested." Yeah, Sam just says, "My big win was looking at what I was spending on." That is a huge, huge one. Beverly says, "Retiring pretty soon," which I love.
That's amazing.
Julia just says, "Life-changing," all caps.
Heather says that I actually cared enough about this that I was up and logged on most weeks at 7 a.m. to share this learning. Yes, big shout out to the Kiwi Rebel Ninjas who, if they're watching live, are getting up ready to be online at 7 a.m. on Tuesdays and Fridays. So Kiwi Rebels, very impressive.
That is phenomenal. Yes, hopefully the future is still bright over there in New Zealand. Zoe says, "I moved my final pension today." Josie says, "I started investing at 60. Go, Josie, that's incredible." Joe says, "I got my certificate today and celebrated." Yes, we fixed the certificate system. And Deb says, "I'm confident I can now manage my own SIP, self-invested personal pension, instead of using an IFA." That is fantastic.
Ruth says, I'm celebrating just how far we've come. It's interesting to look back, and it might feel like you're not making much progress in the short term, but you look at the last year, 10 years, and how far you've come. And I'm excited for those of you doing the course for the first time to go 1 year, 2 year, 5 years into the future and look back and say, wow, I've really come a long way.
Yeah, come back next year. Tell us what you've done. Tell us what you're going, where it is. Brenda put in the chat, Vaftgag. That's all she put was Vaftgag, which is, in America, Pete, you have VTSAX. The British Global Fund is called Vaftgag, which is just a word we like repeating.
I love seeing all your celebrations in the chat. And if you're watching on catch up, please do tell us in the comments, what are you celebrating this evening, today, whatever time of day it is, wherever you are in the world.
I love that. Chelsea says, I grew my net worth by 70k since graduating RFS last year. So Chelsea's giving us the year on picture, which is so phenomenal. Cool. Danielle, 70k is amazing.
Danielle, when can I do the course again, please? Now.
Well, you could immediately just start on YouTube from the beginning again, but obviously we'd recommend just like doing more things, going out and doing things. But we run the course once a year. It's a lot of work, as the ninjas will know. It's a lot of work running the course, but it is so much fun.
I'm celebrating how much love and support we got from all the Rebel Ninjas this year. It's been such a wonderful support to have, and there's so much work going on behind the scenes, and we're very grateful for that.
Yes, Fireman69 says, can we all come to Brazil and shake the pineapple tree?
Yes.
We do actually have a live studio audience.
Yay!
So there's two people who are on the course who... Can you still hear us? Yeah, cool. There's two people who came on the course. They saw our call for we're going to do a YouTube show, and they flew out to Brazil to come and chat to us about money and hang out with us. And now they're randomly in our bedroom.
That's great. Is anybody here in Longmont, Colorado on this course?
Oh, yeah. Is anyone in Longmont, Colorado? Please speak up in the chat.
The tiniest chance, because it's only this 100,000 person city and a 300 million person country that's not even the primary audience. Who knows? I'm gonna take that as a no, because we don't have
nothing's coming up. Maybe if you're watching this on catch up, please
Oklahoma. Someone says LC says close in New Mexico. So we've got Oklahoma and New Mexico. We're circling in.
Julia's on her way. I think there's another person with a crush on you there, Pete.
Conway says, I just Googled where Colorado is. So I think that's the answer from Conway. Monique says Houston, Texas. Maria DeLessi, sorry, I butchered your name, says Miami, Florida. So no one in Colorado, it seems. Zoom user says, I'm leaving now and I'm on my way to see you, Pete. It's a bit concerning. I think they fancy you.
Maybe I shouldn't be quite so open then. Just in case there's any scary people.
Jules says, I'm from Colorado, but left for the peace and quiet of Montana. So she went up to Montana. She's left. Yeah, so no one, it seems, from Colorado this time.
I'm not married, just so you know. It's 2018. I'm married, but I'm still not trying to pick up the Rebel Finance audience. I was just really curious about where everybody is.
Things are taking a turn. There's extra people in our bedroom. What are you celebrating, Alan, tonight?
I am celebrating that this has been just the most wonderful course, and like it's just been so much fun. We've got 3 more content sessions, a couple more Q&As. We've got Doc G coming on to talk about purpose in retirement, and Monday is drawdown with John Buston. So how do you actually get money out of your accounts? That one for our global audience is very UK specific. So you don't need to come on Monday if you're from a different country, but Thursday will help you with that massively, everyone.
Thursday and all the other bonus sessions. It's just Monday's one, the drawdown one, which is UK specific. We're really looking forward to that.
We are really looking forward to that. We have learnt more with John Buston working on this stuff, because like SIPs, you can't get to your SIP until you're, depending, the age changes a bit. For me, it's 58. So it's 12 years away until I can even get to my SIP. And John just looked at me and went, "Why are you learning this? The rules will have changed by the time you get there, Alan." And I'm like, "Well, it's interesting. And I actually want to help people with it." But we have learned so much about how to get your money out and how to work on this stuff. And we're super excited to share it with people.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. What are your, have you got some closing thoughts, Alan?
My closing thoughts is a bit like Pete said, this is not rocket science. The creating the gap, the savings rate or the freedom rate, and taking that money and investing it in a simple global index fund. When you actually understand it, like, it's not actually that difficult. We just have to do it. And that's what we would say to you is, please go out there, take action, and build the most fabulous life that you actually want to lead. Because self-care is not spa days and bubble baths. It's building a life you don't want to run away from, you don't have to escape from. That is what this is truly about, is building the life of your dreams, which can be filled with wonderful things like hanging out with friends, doing crazy Zooms, going for walks, eating nice food around a barbecue. There are so many nice things in life that you can do, and that's what we wish for you all, is to do that. Do you have any closing messages to add, Katie Donegan?
I don't know if to just leave it there and let you leave people with it. But given that I've started speaking now, I think it's just to focus on the things that are important in life. And to me, that is health, that is happiness, and that is setting up your money so that you can enjoy both of those to the max. And it's about working on all of those three as you go along, because my biggest mistake was that I was like, happiness and working on myself, like I'm too busy for that with working, and I always put it off, and I wish that I hadn't. So please, as you're working on your finances, as you're building your wealth, remember to focus on your health and happiness as well, because the money doesn't mean anything if you don't have your health and happiness to enjoy it. Thank you.
Round of applause for Katie. It's been absolutely amazing to have you here. YouTube, thank you so much, all the YouTubers, for showing up tonight. Please hit like, share it with your friends that you think need to hear Pete's words of wisdom. We have absolutely loved having you on YouTube. Thank you. Come along for the bonus sessions. We have a final wrap-up Q&A, Doc G, and then an Ask Us Anything session. So that is the night. Any questions you've had about like our world, how we do things, not finance, other interested stuff, for one night we'll answer any question you want about all of the other stuff. So YouTubers, thank you for coming. We absolutely have loved you having here. Goodbye, YouTube. Goodbye, YouTube. Thank you for coming.
Thanks for coming to celebrate.
Bye, Pepe. Bye, Anne. Bye, Paul, Fireman, Sonia, Tony, Azra, Jay, Claire, Robin, Kerry, SC with a round of applause. Helen, Al Hanley from New Zealand. Please look after New Zealand for us. Vicky, Petson, everyone. Good night, YouTube. We have absolutely loved having you here. Good night. Good night. We love you too. It's so much fun. Goodbye. Okay.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Donegans. Thanks so much.